contact with Nostradamus while he was living in his lifetime in France and when he was writing the prophecies. And so why not go to the one who wrote them and find out what it was all about? But one of the main things, and I lectured on this for 20 years, that was my main focus, and then now I've gone away from it and gone into the more complicated things. But one of the main things he kept stressing as we were having these conversations with him was that you can change the future. The future is not set in stone. It is, you can go in many different ways. He saw it as branches, branching out in all different directions, all the possibilities and probabilities from any action. And you know, this happens in people's lives also. If you make one decision, your life could have gone in a totally different direction. So this is the same way with the world. There are all the probabilities and possibilities of what could happen. So he wrote down the worst, the absolute worst that he saw, because he said, if I tell you the most horrible things man can do to himself, will you do something to change it? And many, many of the prophecies have come true. The books have been out there for over 20 years, and people say they read them, and it's like watching them happen on the news. But the one thing he did want us to tell people whenever I was doing the lecturing was if you don't know the power of your own mind, that you create your own reality. And people don't like to hear that because maybe they don't like what's going on in their life. But everything in their life they have put there. And once they understand that, then they can change their lives. It's the same with the world. He said, if I tell you the most horrible outcome if you follow this path, then will you do something to change it if you realize the outcome of it? So he wanted us to do was shift to another path on these timelines where the results would be less or maybe just take it away altogether. And so that's the thing. When you read these prophecies, and even with any psychics you go to, it's not set in stone. They are picking up a probability or a possibility if you follow that line. So now, some of these prophecies, the worst that he saw, have not happened. And I think that means we have turned the corner and we're going down a different timeline. Because he said at that time, and that's what he wanted me to tell, I was traveling all over the world at that time, he said if one person's mind is powerful enough to change the future by focusing on the opposite of what he saw, focusing on peace and harmony, even in their own lives or in the world. If one man's mind is that powerful, they can change it. He said, imagine the power of group mind. You get groups of people focusing on the opposite, focusing on peace and harmony. We could change the world because the power of group mind is not only multiplied, it's squared. And so that was what I was telling everybody. If you had metaphysical groups, you had prayer groups, anything where people met together to focus on the opposite of what he was showing us, and that would be our future. So I've watched it happen. By the beginning of the 2000s, we were supposed to be in a horrible war with the Middle East.
Yeah.
Instead, it's less than it could have been.
Yeah, although there's a lot of saber rattling still going on between Iran and North Korea, isn't there? There's always that kind of threat on the horizon.
Yeah. So that's why it's not as bad as it was, and that's the way he wanted it to be. He wanted us to know so we could change it. So it doesn't mean that the interpretations in the book are incorrect. It just meant this was the worst that would happen if we followed that path.
So I know with the work you were doing, it all suddenly shifted. So you were like regressing you was regressing your subjects, and then all of a sudden the shift went from figuring out people's past lives and stuff like that to sort of talking about a shift in consciousness. And
yeah.
which is really what the whole, I suppose a lot of people have sort of hooked on to the 2012 thing because of the Mayan calendar. You know, and it may be that date, it may be just that's a pivotal time where we start to wake up as people, you know. So just wondered, you know, what have you uncovered on that?
Oh, I've uncovered a lot about it. This is what I'm lecturing on. And believe me, the date 2012 has no significance. They're making a lot more out of this than they think it should be. It's happening now. We're right in the middle of it now. All the changes are taking place at this moment. I noticed the beginning when my work began to change was about 2003. This is when we began to see something was actually happening. And it's becoming more and more obvious now as the frequencies change and the vibrations change as we move into this new world and the new consciousness, as you want to call it. But by the year 2012, that just means at that point the energy will have accumulated to the part that we will have moved over into this. But there won't be just like all of a sudden one day everything will change. It's a very gradual thing, and it's going on right now. And those who are aware can see what's happening. They can feel it. They know what's going on right now. But the date, I had people in my work who went back to when they had lifetimes as the Mayans and the different Indian groups. You remember the Mayans disappeared, and there were other Indian groups, too, who just disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to them. They never knew where they went. And this is what I found when the ones who went back into those time periods and gave me the information was they became very advanced, and they were able to shift as a civilization into this new vibration, this new frequency, this new dimension. And that's where we are going. And because they could see the future, they could see that the next big step for mankind would be when the entire planet moved into another dimension by changing the frequency and the vibration. And the date they put on that was 2012. That's when they stopped their calendar. But that didn't mean, it definitely doesn't mean the end of the world. This is why I get so many emails about that. No, it is not the end of the world. It just means this is when the change will become very noticeable. But it's still not going to be you're going to wake up one morning and everything is totally different. It's a gradual thing, and we're in the middle of it right now.
Yeah. I know this sound horrible, but whenever things happen that are bad, you know, like disasters, floods, that kind of thing, or, you know, like even sort of scandals, I guess, in governments. It allows people, it reveals the truth about something in order for other people to do something good and to change that. So do you think it's, you know, we're going to get more and more of this, so it's more going to create opportunities to reveal truths, then people can step in and change it and make it better?
Yeah, this is part of what I'll be talking about in my lecture. What it is the separating. You have the old earth and the new earth. The old earth is where all of these negative things are going to be left. They said the people who will stay with the old earth are those who are so much into negativity that they can't even see anything is happening. And they will stay with what they have created. So naturally they'll stay there. They can't change their vibration quickly enough to move to the other earth because it is a gradual thing. And so it doesn't matter. They are staying with what they want, what they are used to. But what I've been told, it doesn't make any difference anyway. Sooner or later, they will all get there to the new earth. But those that are waking up now, those are the ones that know something is going on, are the ones that will be moving into the new earth. And it's going to be a separation and a totally different reality than what they've had before. And see, it all has to do with karma, too. If you've accumulated karma, you can't move on, because if you have karma, you have to keep coming back to repay that karma. Those are the ones who will stay with the old earth, because they're caught on the wheel of karma, and they have to keep coming back to work it out. But once you get over that, then you're free of that. You're free of the debts and what I call the baggage and the garbage you carry around, you can move on to the new earth. But we're in the middle of it now. Everything is changing.